Good morning, church family. It's an honor to be with you. It's really a joy and privilege for every time John, Kyle, or myself get up here to share a message in the assembly that is here at PP Church. We're settling in. We're doing it. We're 1 month into this building. I think God's not done with us just yet. Here at PP, we are people of the Bible. We believe that the Bible is the holy and inspired Word of God. The Bible contains not only information, but it contains an invitation to transformation. When we encounter the one God in His scriptures, we will never be the same again. We will be changed forevermore. And we don't only read of His story, but His story becomes our story. And that's exactly what we have been meditating on for about the last year as we contemplate 6 ways in which our God has called us to become a new people, a people shaped and molded in His image. You see, as we prepared to enter the land in December, January, we had 2 series on image making and on being revelational. Yeah? We looked at how Jesus' story speaks of His birth and how we are going to experience a new when we move into this building. But it's not just about Jesus' birth that matters, but also His life story as well. His life story shows us how again and again God reveals who He is in the very ordinary things of this world. And so for us, as we prepare to enter the land, what is our story? The story that we heard, we shemad together as a people, is that we are going to be a new chapter together. And how we live our lives in this new building, in this new chapter, is going to reveal who God is to the people around us. Isn't that amazing? And we began a season of compassion where we meditated on Jesus' journey to the cross, to crucifixion. As we meditated on Jesus' journey towards crucifixion, we looked at how suffering invites us to be people who are okay with suffering. We are invited to be people who are okay with death, with the closing of a chapter that has been difficult. And in that last what did we do in that last week before moving in here? We had a season of fasting, right? Fasting as we prepared to leave that old season of wilderness wandering behind. But it's not just the season of 2 years of wilderness wandering behind. It was also the old life that we had, the old memories that we had. These are important, but we need to recognize that God is calling us to become a new people. And that's exactly what He did. Brought us into this space on 31st of March on Resurrection Sunday. On that day, we celebrated how God was raising this new building to new life in resurrection, right? Jesus' story is our story. And it's not just the building that God has resurrected, but it's this church family that He is and will be resurrecting every day of our lives. This is what it means to follow Jesus. Becomes our story. Do you see that connection there? That's amazing, isn't it? And so today, as we conclude our season of restoration, we arrive at a place that is all too familiar to us, a place that the risen Jesus frequented a lot after He was resurrected, and that is the table. Turn with me, please, to Luke chapter 24, verse 13 to That's Luke 24, verses 13 to 31. Now, this is the scene after the resurrection of Jesus. Our disciples went to the tomb and tried to find Him, but His body they did not find. Verse 13, that very day, 2 of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they were talking all the things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing together, guess what? Jesus Himself drew near and went with them. But, verse 16, but their eyes were kept from recognizing Jesus. And so Jesus said to them, "Oh, what are you guys talking about?" And they stood still, they looked very sad. Then one of them, named Cleopas, and he was like, "Wait, are you the only person around here who doesn't know what has happened?" And then Jesus said to him, "Oh, what's happened? Or what things?" Right? Jesus is acting dumb here, yeah? And they said to him, "Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, a man who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and our rulers up to be condemned to death and crucified. But, we hope that he was the one who would rescue Israel. And besides all this, it's already the third day since he's died." Oh, but you know something? Verse 22. "Moreover, some women of our company amazed us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body, they came back saying that they had seen angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb to check it out, and just as the women said, him they did not see." Now, imagine it. Is this the moment he rolls up his sleeves? I think he says to them, "Oh, foolish ones and slow of heart, to believe all that the prophets have spoken." Verse 26, "Was it not necessary that the Christ should things and enter into glory?" And beginning with Moses and the prophets, and that's a Hebrew short form of saying the entire Hebrew Bible, he interpreted to them all the things concerning himself. Again, which scriptures were these? These were not the New Testament. It had not been written yet, yeah? In fact, we're reading it, right? But it was the Old Testament that Jesus interpreting to show them something new. You've been reading this for thousands of years, but there's something new in there that I'm going to draw out and uncover for you. So they drew near to the village to which they were going, and Jesus, he acted that he was going to go further. And they were like, "Oh, wait, come, let's have a meal together." And they urged him strongly to stay because it was late. And so he went in to stay with them. And verse 30, this is the part that I want us to focus on today. It's just one word, but it's powerful. When he was where? When he was at table with them. Not on the road, but when he was at table with them, he took the bread, blessed, broke it, and gave it to them. Does it sound familiar? Whole lot like what he did at the Last Supper, right? Took the bread, blessed, broke, and gave it to them. And it was in this moment, verse 31, that their eyes were opened and they recognized him and they said, "Hey, that's Jesus." And then he vanished from their sight. And the story kind of ends there. Well, I mean, there's more, of course. But what a story this is. Jesus knows how to make a mic drop exit, a very climatic, poof, disappear kind of exit. And I wonder what you hear from this amazing story. I wonder what you hear from this account of Jesus revealing who he is to these two people. Do you hear, I wonder, a story of two disciples who were sad, broken? The person they thought they had put their right and correct trust in was the wrong person. And he takes that disappointment and he renews it. And he shows them that there is hope in this. Or I wonder, do you hear a story of two regular people who wanted to host Jesus only to find that, actually, he was hosting them? I wonder if you hear a story of a new life that begins at a setting that all of us here, every single one of us, are so familiar with. That restoration takes place at the table. If you are Singaporean here, or if you have been in Singapore for a while, you know the table is a place that's so important to us. From the time that many in our seniors, they right? Or have you eaten already? Food is important to us. And food is important to Jesus as well. You see, I want to point out this morning that the place Jesus opens the eyes of these disciples was not on the road. Neither was it during a Bible study. Do you realize that? We in the Churches of Christ, we love our Bible study, and that's good. We should keep. At the same time, there is another place where the opening of eyes takes place, and that is the table, right? We are restored at the table. And I believe, my brothers and sisters, this story here invites all of us here to rethink what the table means. The table is for restoration. The table is for us to see new life that Jesus is bringing to us. How many of you have this sign at home? Anyone? Yeah, quite a few, huh? Quite a few, okay? I used to have this sign at home. Actually, I think it might still be in my parents' home. I'm not too sure about that. Haven't been noticing the kitchen as much. But I used to when I was having my meals. And what a powerful reminder this is, that the resurrection power of Jesus did not remain 2,000 years ago, deep freeze, cryo freeze, right? Neither did the cross, but it flowed from the cross down into our homes and onto our tables. The resurrection power of Jesus is on our tables. He's restoring us every time we have a meal. At your meal. But you know something? If I could make a change to this sign, there is one thing that I would change. And I'm sorry to all those who have this in your home. The in the unseen there. Because Jesus is visible to us every time we partake of a meal in His presence, isn't it? I would strike off the silent listener and put in active participant to every conversation that takes place at our tables, because the table is for restoration. And today, who is Jesus at the table? You and I. We are called to be people who restore others at the table. We don't only pray and then let God be silent in heaven. He's not silent. He's not invisible. He's present through. That's who He calls us to become. Restoration takes place at the table, in our spirits and in our sight. The second thing I want to share with you today is that the table is through restoration and not destruction. All right? I'll say that again. The table is spread through restoration and not destruction. I want to turn our attention, to Jesus does his Bible study with Cleopas and his partner. What scriptures did Jesus look at? Was it the Old or the New Testament? It was the Old, wasn't it? He took the Testament and he breathed new life into it and uncovered it for his disciples. Isn't that amazing? Jesus also says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, what was it? If you know it, please say. Thing that I have come to, what? Destroy or abolish the law and the prophets. I have not come to destroy or abolish them, but to what? Fulfill them. Isn't that amazing? He's breathing new what was once old. And when Jesus does that, He is restoring our understanding of the Old Testament. He's not destroying it, He's restoring it. Now this can be a bit abstract, yeah? So let me try to make it very practical for us, okay? Things that we can do immediately. When I was studying overseas, I had this flatmate who was really generous, and she often liked to cook. Okay, when she would cook, wow, the whole place. And she would boil soup, and it would boil over sometimes onto the stove. And she would often invite me, hey, you want to have some? Yeah, she was really generous. You could say that she had a table-spreading heart, yeah? But there was just after she finished cooking, the stove and the sink will look like that. Auntie Veronica up there, maybe her eye twitching already. No such thing in our kitchen, okay? Please, before you leave, all right? All right. And so, tell me this. My flatmate, she spread a table. She did spread a table for whoever wanted to come and have her soup and stuff, yeah? But what happened when she spread the table? The kitchen, unfortunately, kind of got destroyed, because there were 6 of us in the flat, and there were 2 stoves and 2 sinks, and 1 sink and 1 stove was like that, because she would only clean it 24 hours later, just before she was going to have her next dinner. All right? So I'm not kidding you, okay? I'm not kidding you. It was really like that. And so 5 of us used 1 stove and all the time. Is that truly table spreading? We are blessed with many brothers and sisters here who are so generous. And from the bottom of my heart, from the staff, from our leaders, thank you. It is really amazing how many of us are so helpful. But at the same time, we also must be sensitive to how sometimes our help and our good intentions may not have elements of restoration, because it may cause some destruction somewhere, just like my friend who cooks like that, right? Okay, so we must be very mindful, all right? Now we are a church, big church family. We need to be mindful of how we offer our help. And sometimes if our or the staff or the leaders who say, actually, sorry, we have to consider this other group, I do hope that you understand as well, all right? The reason why I say this is because we have so many things going on in our church family. You look at the focus, you look at our announcements. Very soon, we cannot announce everything already, because it's taking like 20 minutes to announce, longer than the sermon. So what we need to do is we need to develop the heart of table spreading. True table spreading thinks about how we do life, not kind of take away other opportunities from other groups and people, yeah? So this is something that I want to encourage us to embrace. True table spreading is restorative, and there will be no hint in it. Now, the third thing that I want to share before we close up today is that the table is spread for restoration and not for retribution. When you say the word retribution, often associated with punishment, right? But there's also positive retribution. Those of us who are teachers, you may be familiar with this. If the child does something good, you give a reward and so on, yeah? But our attention to when Jesus begins speaking with Cleopas and his partner. When Jesus sits down at table with them. When did he do it? Was it when their faith were perfected already? Or was it when it was not yet perfect? It was when it was not perfect yet, right? They didn't have a full understanding. Their faith was not. And so, I think that says something to us, that we must be willing to sit at table with people who may not share our exact beliefs, people who may look different from us, and something that will be very, very clear and obvious to us in this coming week. Because this coming week, we stand in the middle of 2 seasons. Right? We stand at the edge of the restorative season, and we're preparing to enter the table spreading season. But we are people of the Bible. We believe that we live in Jesus'. So tell me, what happens after the resurrection of Jesus? What happens after the Gospels? Which book is it? It's the book of Acts, right? This place at the start of the book of Acts. It's Pentecost, isn't it? Pentecost is coming. And just as the Jewish people streamed in from near and far, 2,000 years, mega huge reunion event, the same thing is going to happen for us this week. Because on Wednesday, our gates are going to open, and people of all walks from Pasir Panjang Road and our families are going to stream in. People you may not know, people who may look very different from you, people who may believe in things that are very different from you. How shall we host them? Should we spread tables retribution? Oh, let me see if you agree with me before you sit down. Or should it be tables of restoration, where we say, come, let's sit together. Let our relationship be restored and restored to God together. Will we spread tables of restoration? Because Pentecost is coming and our extended Church of Christ family will be here with us next Sunday. And like our Chinese New Year reunion dinner, relatives that, hey, so long never see you already, isn't that amazing? For some of us who maybe we are a little younger, we may not know so many old family friends in this Church of Christ network. And that's a good time for us to meet our relatives for the first time. How should we host them? What should we say? Should we begin with a comparison of, oh, PP's like that and you guys do things differently? Should we go through a list of maybe doctrinal positions or something? That will not be the time for it, right? There may be a time and place for this, but this week is not the time for it. And the table is not the place for it. Because this week, the Spirit of God will come all from near and far, from within our tradition and without our tradition, and bind us together in fellowship. End of Acts chapter 2, right? Fellowship. Because this week, we look forward to where the Spirit of God will not only commission this building with His presence, but commission our people with His presence as well. And this week, this is the week where we sit at table of community as we become commissioned to become a new people. So come, all who are ready to spread tables of restoration this week. Won't you ready to host others in our community and to host Jesus at your table as well? And won't you sing to the people of the risen King as He restores us to become His table spreaders?
Come.